at the time when his team needed it most.
Paskolja the win. Paskolja shoots. He scores! And a big goal for Greg Paskolja. And yes, we are all tied.
Hey everybody, welcome to LSN College Central. Travis Eldridge joining us in studio for the first time this year. Welcome, Travis.
Yeah, we had a game last night, so then we get to have some fun here on Saturday. I get to watch all the games this week.
Yeah, that'll be fun for you especially.
Yes.
Megan Triplett, who's always here watching the game, she'll be here in just a moment. I am Tom Eschen. What's up? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, St. Patrick's Day weekend as well. We're here for the next 30 minutes. Get you ready for the day in lacrosse here on Saturday. Here's a look at some of the games we have our eyes on today. Top 5 battle in the Ivy League. Cornell and Yale, number 3 versus number 4. We'll talk about that. That's a 1 p.m. Eastern start on ESPN News. Another top 5 matchup you have to watch. Towson and Duke. The Tigers looking to bounce back from that loss to Cornell in Charlotte over the weekend. Another trip to North Carolina this weekend. Duke, of course, beat Utah earlier this week. Syracuse and Rutgers in a top 15 battle at 1 p.m. Eastern in the Carey Dome. And Notre Dame and Virginia, ACC game. Very important for ACC standings. Every one of these games important. Should be a good one there, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+.
So we'll get to all those games in just a second, but first we got to look back to last night, because if you missed Utah versus Fairfield right here in LSN, Travis called it, and you missed some ridiculous highlights. A good game, too.
Yeah, on top of the fact that the game went to overtime, hashtag Friday Night Lax was, well, it was lit. First, there
Thanks
was...
to the lights.
That, too. You're awful. Utah goalie Liam Donnelly now has made double-digit saves in all 9 games he's played, and the sophomore from Yorktown, stellar. At times, he was standing on his head throughout this game, including one wild sequence in the second half. Overall, finished with 16 saves. That's just one shy of his career high.
But Fairfield did find ways to get a few home, including here. Check the hit from Dylan Beckwith. That's not a goal, but you're going to see why we just showed it to you. He created the turnover, picked up the ball, then off to quick restart, goes airborne, one-handed goal. Terrific effort and tied the game. This was big because it tied the game at 7 early in the fourth quarter.
And there was more. Not much later in the fourth, Stags down by 1 again. Goalie James Corsiniti with the heave. He only had a second left to clear. Finds Beckwith, who does the rest. Give the goalie an assist. He is the first goalie to record a point for Fairfield since 2008. Oh, and it once again tied the game to help force overtime.
Some incredible plays, incredible feats of athleticism just to keep this one close. And after getting shut down at the end of regulation, trying to win it, Travis Ford got it done in overtime for the Stags. It was the second overtime game-winning goal for Fairfield this week, as they also beat Bryan in OT on Tuesday. Here is the team reacting, not just on the field, but also by their voices to the come-from-behind win.
Well, I think for us it's a huge thing because we started off this season a little shaky, and then for us, this is the first win that we can get over the 500 mark, which has given a lot of momentum to our program, and I think it helps us a lot and helps the camaraderie within the locker room. And for us, winning 2 in overtime, that's huge because you were tied with the team, and then you send it to overtime, and just to get over that last hump and get that last goal gives your team a lot more push forward for next week.
Boy, I mean, I'm not sure. You never want to be down 3 at halftime. I mean, we kind of we had a slow start, which really almost cost us the game today. But look, it's our third 1-goal win of the year, so I think that speaks to kind of the grit that these guys have right now. There's a never give up attitude, and I'm really proud of this guy here to my left here for popping the winner. He had a couple pipes before that and just a little bit of bad luck, but when we needed him the most, he rose to the occasion.
1-goal wins always better than 1-goal losses. So it was a tough loss for Utah, but the spring break trip not done. Let's take a look at where they've been. It started with a trip to Durham, North Carolina. The Utes facing Duke. They hung with the Blue Devils before the number 2 team in the country pulled away in the second half. Then they flew to New York to bus to Connecticut on Friday for last night's game. Now they're back on the bus, I'm assuming probably this morning, up to assistant coach Will Manny's alma mater for a game against UMass tomorrow before they then bus to Boston to fly home. All in all, about 5,000 miles traveled for the Utes here on spring break. It may not be Cancun, but it's the lacrosse equivalent.
Right. Little team bonding, I guess, is one way to put it. So, but look, for Utah, we know that they've been almost unprecedented in the way they've started this season. 4-5 now at this point. So you look at them in the comparison to some of the other first-year programs. This is since 2007, and they're off to the best start out of all those programs, including Robert Morris, Marquette, Richmond, High Point, and Cleveland State. I think the one they're probably chasing the most now is Richmond, who ended up winning the Atlantic Sun tournament and made the NCAA tournament. Now they might not be able to win a conference tournament because they're not a conference.
Right.
A conversation we had earlier this week, but at the same time trying to match that record of 7-10 that Richmond had along with Marquette at 7-10, I think is maybe Utah's next frontier in terms of their program. Let's head over to Megan now, who has some more on today's action.
All right, thanks, guys. So now that we've talked about last night, let's get to today and talk about all the big games going down this afternoon. And let's start out in New Haven. 4th-ranked Yale hosting 3rd-ranked Cornell. Now, Cornell is coming off of a busy weekend at the Crown Lacrosse Classic. The Big Red lost to Penn State on the first day, but it was the win over the then top-ranked Towson on Sunday that everybody remembers. Cornell defeated the Tigers 18-11 in a game where Clark Peterson finished with a career-high 8 goals. Now, as for Yale, after dropping their first game of the season, the defending champs have now won 3 in a row. Their most recent win was on Sunday against Michigan, winning 17-11. And in surprise, transfer T.D. Erlin has been stellar in his first 4 games with Yale. He leads the NCAA, winning 76% of his faceoffs. Now, for more on this matchup, here's what LSN analyst Davey Imola said about today's games.
Well, I think this is going to be great. You know, a classic Ivy League matchup here, especially with these two programs and what they've done in recent years, and especially obviously Yale winning the national championship. But you know, Cornell's been right there and has been a big topic of discussion. You know, a lot of reason being Jeff Teat and what he's done there. But I think this is going to be an absolute battle. I think it's going to be back and forth. The first area of the field for me that comes to mind is the face-off X, just because of Yale and having T.D. Ireland and what he does there. You talk about, you know, Andy Shea, you see his quotes about T.D. and what he brings to their team and how he allows them to play. And then on the flip side, you have Cornell, and the face-off has been an area of struggle for them, right? I think, you know, they figured it out a little bit against Towson in terms they didn't win face-offs, but they were able to deter Towson and their ride and clearing game. Their ride was so good, they limited how Towson could clear the ball, and that's eventually what sort of made up that difference from them at the X. They're going to have to do something like that this game against Yale. They're going to have to figure out a way to try to make some of these face-offs 50-50, but also make up for the face-off statistics in some other way on the field.
Good stuff from Davey.
Yeah, so obviously we've got some big games this afternoon, and we got everybody here. So let's just break some of this down a little bit. Who do you like in this one? Cornell, Yale? Where do you think the scales are tipping, guys?
I don't want to make a pick, but I do think that this game is going to be interesting. I can tell you, I think Yale needs this one more. I think, you know, I still haven't gotten over the loss to Villanova yet, and Villanova, they've kind of slided. They're not as good as possibly as we thought. So for Yale, especially when we talk about rankings, they're defending champs. They need this game. They really, really do need this one, because if they lose to Cornell, then I think the question is, how good is Yale?
I think the big thing with this is Ivy League seeding so early in the season. Mm-hmm. The fact that these are each other's Ivy League openers is it's really tough. And it just seems like it's always this matchup for the Ivy League opening. With Cornell, feeding off of them beating Yale in the Ivy League tournament, I'll be interesting to see the defense around Jeff Teat, because that was one of the first times we saw somebody really effectively Yale, did not try to lock off Jeff Teat, something that a lot of other people did during the end of that last season, and something that Cornell struggled with against Princeton prior and against Brown in the semifinals of the Ivy League tournament. I'll be interested to see what they do with Jeff Teat, and if they just put Chris Fake on him and say, okay, or if they try to do something different.
They might open things up for Pedersen, which is really what we saw. You know, we saw Teat being the feeder, and that's something that he's always done well in his career in their game on Sunday when they beat when they beat Towson. So I feel like on that other side of things, Teet's definitely been looking to open things up and still keep on feeding his teammates. To me in this game, you know, I heard Davey talk about the face-off, and I think the most interesting part is this, that Cornell was not good in the X at all against Towson, and they go on to win 18-11, and that offense is just so efficient with their shots on goal. You know, they might have lost to Towson in almost every other category, including face-offs, but their shots on goal were better than Towson's on that game on Sunday. That's why they won 18-11. So their shooters, their guys, especially attack midfield, they are so efficient when they shoot the ball that I think that gives them a little bit of an advantage. But at the same time, Cornell, one of the worst defenses in the country right now, which I think put things in Yale's favor.
By the way, Jeff Teet just 1 point from 200 for his career. Just he would be the 4th player in Cornell history to reach that 200 mark. I think he's going to get there today.
Wow.
1 point.
Yeah, it was definitely going to get 1 point.
Good prediction, Travis.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, very bold there.
1 p.m. ESPN News. You're going to check that out.
How about number 5 Towson and number 2 Duke? The biggest thing for me in this game is the fact that I think this is the most talented team the Tigers have played all year. So
I definitely agree with that.
That's what is intriguing for me is we know Towson's good, but this will tell us how good as they have to go on the road to play Duke.
And I said this earlier in the week. I think we were talking. I was with Megan on Sunday, and I think Duke should be Monday. I think Duke should be the #1 team in the nation right now.
You did say that.
Their loss to High Point now doesn't look that bad anymore. Initially,
but you had that loss to High Point. So that you can't
High
be
Point's
number
the 10th ranked team in the country. So I think Duke is I think they've been playing better. They've gotten better as the season's gone on, which you see, which is John Danowski. And I think when Brad Smith moved from midfield to attack this season, I think that took them a few games to sort of figure things out and get him acclimated a little bit better. And I think now that you've seen like Kai Montgomery step up in the last couple of weeks. Another interesting point about this game is that this is the best face-off unit Alex Woodall will face all season. Everybody else has been under 50%. Duke at 63% with Brian Smythe leading the charge in there. So best face-off unit. We'll see how Woodall does against a little bit better talents there on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think for Towson, I think this is a big game for them because you have Duke and then you have Denver, and then you go into CA play. And I think the CA, you know, there aren't any ranked teams in CA as of right now besides Towson. So I think this game is going to matter a lot. They need these 2 wins, and if they can get Duke and Denver back to back, that will say a lot about Towson when he comes in the talks of, like, you know, should they be #1? How good are the Tigers? You know, some people say, you know, it's not a big conference as opposed to the ACC. So I think this game is going to matter a lot. If they can come off and get a win over Duke, and then you got Denver, you know, the next weekend, it'll be something that we'll all be talking about.
Honestly, I think if they beat Duke today, they're a lock for an NCAA tournament at large, as long as they don't, like, if they would lose in the CAA championship game to UMass or whoever, I still think they would be a lock with this win over Duke plus the Loyola and Hopkins wins, because I think all those teams will end up being really good. The question I will have for Towson is Tyler Canto got pulled in that game against Cornell.
Yeah.
Shane Brennan was the starter last year. Was going to be the starter this year if not for an injury, and it allowed Tyler Canto out of a great start. I'll be intrigued how, because I think they'll go back to Canto, I'll be intrigued how he deals with having been shelled and knowing that Shane Brennan's breathing down his neck, and there's a competition there. And that can, different people, mentally it affects people different ways.
Definitely would. And we love competition.
I mean, some people feed off of it, some people don't do well.
True, and as good as the defense has been in front of the goalies this year, too, for Towson, I think plays a big part in that. So if you let in a couple of easy goals, then they're like, well, it's not Colby Smith, it's not Goodrich, it's the guy behind him. So, yeah, an interesting point there.
All right, ACC game, #7 Notre Dame and 12th ranked Virginia. And while you think of both these programs as traditional powers in the ACC, I know Virginia had its struggles over the last 4 or 5 years in conference. Notre Dame's won 7 in a row against the Cavs. Cavs have never beaten Notre Dame since they joined the ACC.
Just you saying that history and that stat, that makes the game so exciting. Like it makes you want to cheer for Virginia because it's like to walk off that field saying we beat Notre Dame, we haven't beaten them in seven games, like that makes it so intriguing. And if I'm Virginia, that puts me so much adrenaline and so much rush to go, hey, we need to go out here and beat Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame is really good. I think it's going to be a tough battle. I think Notre Dame needs to make it 8 straight. Just because you still have the ACC and that the conference is so big in everything. Every game matters in the ACC. I know Then when you get to the tournament, it all matters. So whoever wins this game, both of them need it.
I'm on the same page as you guys. I think Notre Dame's wins this year, even though they were inside against Maryland, that was still a great victory. And the fact they went out west and beat Denver, another really good team. I think those wins are just better than what UVA's done. I mean, you go to overtime 3 games in a row. That's just playing with fire at this point. And the teams they beat in overtime, not as impressive as a Denver or Maryland.
True.
I mean, you beat Princeton, who's been okay this year. Brown and Syracuse in the Dome, I think that was probably the best win out of those 3. But still, you're playing with fire. It's just too close to call. So to me, I think, that's a 7-game winning streak. Mumford & Sons is playing on Virginia's campus.
Whoa,
so
look at you
we're gonna
doing
go
some
with,
research.
They're gonna
I
have
actually
to,
like Mumford & Sons.
Yeah,
I do too.
Well, they're one of their songs, I Will Wait. And Virginia's have to wait another year to break that streak.
I don't know why. I still haven't bought in on Notre Dame yet. And I don't.
Okay.
Maybe it's the indoor thing against Maryland, because that was a great game. Maryland had plenty of chances to win, and they were inside. And I know that's a tough place to go in and play when you're not expecting to play indoors. And then the Denver one, I don't know. I haven't bought in on Notre Dame.
That game was at 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast.
I know.
So it was like, what's going on out there?
I'm not sure what to make of the Irish yet. This will give me more.
This will tell you.
Also, it's like the complete opposite dynamics. Notre Dame, happy to settle it down. Virginia's going to want to go. Pace will be a big difference maker in this game.
Yeah, Notre Dame, the 5th best defense in the country, so that's another important factor there.
There you go.
Alrighty, well, we just wrapped up all our biggest games today. So let's get to coming up. Penn State is off this weekend, but we're still on record watch for Grant Ament. What records he's on pace to break this season?
We are still going to be #1 on Monday. We will also see Dehoga Nanticoke today. We'll hear what Scott Marr had to say about his status, the star making his return.
And we get the picks from Barstool Jordy, how he feels about Loyola playing on the weekend against Navy.
Woodall wins the faceoff, and that will do it. For the first time since 1992 and the 3rd time ever, the Tigers have knocked off the #1 team in the country. It was a big stage here on a Wednesday night, Davey, and at times it wasn't real pretty, but it kind of fits what Towson is all about. They come away with the 12-10 win.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships. May 25th through 27th at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia.
In the stick, boom, on the money, cradle and a pass. Win the first championship!
Visit ncaa.com/lacrosse to get your tickets today.
Last weekend, Penn State's Grant Ament dished out 9 assists on Friday. Following that up with another 8 assists and 2 goals against Jacksonville. That makes 17 in just 2 games. His 46 assists so far this season have already broken the single-season Penn State record, and it's only the middle of March. Let's go inside those numbers even more. At his current pace of 8 points per game, Ament is on pace to break the single-season points record of 128 held by Lyle Thompson. he would break that record on this pace with just one postseason game, so Big Ten tournament. He's also on pace to wildly surpass the NCAA single season assist record, which is 77. He's already at 46 in just 7 games, so give him another, 4 games at this rate, right?
Yeah, he's tearing it up. This is ridiculous.
We're going to see a lot more of him. And I think he's going to break the record.
Yeah.
I see it happening.
They get off. The only thing we know is he's not going to score this week because they don't play.
Right.
The Albany Great Danes, this men's team, 1-4 on the season. Last weekend, they fell to 7th-ranked Maryland, 14-9. Not an awful result against the Terps. Good team. But once again, playing without Dehoga Nanticoke, the story there.
Yeah, because it wasn't about on the field either. It was kind of about off the field. The sophomore star was dressed, but he did not play in that game. And Albany head coach Scott Marr telling reporters the reason wasn't for public knowledge. Now, it's been a crazy couple of weeks for this whole situation, and it all started when Nanticoke was benched for about a quarter and a half in their win over Drexel. Then he didn't travel to Cornell, the school sitting him after he tagged a stringing company in an Instagram post, and that was a controversy that blew up after Scott Marr saying the NCAA suspended Dehoga indefinitely, only for the NCAA to come back and say Dehoga was reinstated and that they never suspended him. Okay, so now for the latest, Scott Marr saying Dehoga will play against UMass Lowell this afternoon.
Well, that's good news for the Great Danes. They could use a win here to open up America East play. All right, time for some picks. Barstool Jordy standing by with Tom for his thoughts on the Las Vegas lines for this week's Actors.
Our weekly segment with Jordy starts right now as Jordy joins us. And let's start with the Las Vegas line for Loyola Navy. Loyola giving 4, hosting Navy.
Yeah, so weekend Loyola versus weekday Loyola, they are 2 different beasts. So, if you look at some of the scores, obviously Towson and Duke both had Loyola on a weekday, but you look at some of the scores that they put up on the weekend. So they're a big Saturday team. So 17 goals against Virginia, 18 against Hopkins. They put up 19 on Holy Cross. Those are numbers that I just don't think that Navy has really. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with weekend Loyola. So if this was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday game, I'd say that the midshipmen would have a little chance here. But for some reason, Loyola gets themselves going on Saturday, so I got to go Loyola and the points.
All right, yeah, so Loyola covering. Let's go to the next one here. Army giving 3.5 at Holy Cross. Interesting one there.
Yeah, well, so this one I can't go against both service academies on the same weekend. Right? I don't want the narrative to be out there that Barstool Jordy is anti-American. So this one right here, I think that this will be a nice little win for Army. Holy Cross, they're having a Holy Cross year, but Army, the only 2 losses on their record so far this year, respectable losses to Cuse and Lehigh, a Lehigh team who's been just given everybody fits lately, especially Rutgers. Shout out James and Lucas Spence, Springfield Delco products. But no, I think that Army comes away with this one pretty cleanly, and that's at least 1 win for the troops this weekend.
Yeah, but that's at least a good thing. And off topic, Lehigh's really been coming on, but interesting to see how their season's ebbed and flowed as they've gone on here. All right, Cornell getting 2 at Yale. What do you like there?
Well, first off, I need all of the Erlin on Erlin crime I can get. So whether it's TD sticking one or Chase just stuffing them. So I think that that's going to be a great matchup to watch. So last weekend, pretty up and down weekend for Cornell. They were kind of on the receiving end and the giving end of some bullying. So they got beat down pretty well by Penn State, but then they come back and they take down then #1 Towson. So, both of those games, neither of them were necessarily close. I think that changes this week. So I still haven't decided, in my heart, who I think comes out of this game on top. But I do think that it'll be closer than that. I think it'll come down to 1 goal here. So I got Cornell +2.
So Yale won't cover. It needs to be a 1-goal game. Over under, quick one here. Clark Pedersen goals, 5. Setting at 5. Over under.
You could have set that number at anything you wanted, and I'm taking the over.
I love it. After 8 goals in the first half, you never know. All right, last one, we got UVA getting a 1.5 goals against Notre Dame.
Yeah, so Notre Dame's been surprising me the past couple weeks here, putting up those wins against Maryland and and Denver. But the last 4 games for Virginia, they are the cardiac Cavs. They have all been 1-goal games, and eventually that has to stop at some point. But I think that they're a bunch of mad lads on that team, and I think that they keep things going down to the wire this week as well. So I think in a tight game that probably bodes better. Whoa, that's mixing up my words here. I've never even spoke before. Wow. But it bodes better for Notre Dame if they can keep this one close. But I do think it'll be another 1-goal game, so that's got to be Virginia plus 1.5.
Wow, another 1 goal. Okay, all right. I guess that's what we'll go with.
I'm just going to keep riding it the entire year.
Just ride Virginia. They can win close games. I guess 3 overtime wins in a row. It's incredible what they've been doing.
Yeah. So, just get all jacked up on some energy drinks and have yourself a good old time while you're watching those Virginia games, because it's definitely, it's not great for the heart, but it's great for enjoying your life.
Now we're getting deep. Thank you, Jordy. Appreciate those kind words.
All hyped up on Mountain Dew.
All hyped up, yeah. Things got a little weird there at the end. I don't know what was going on. Make sure to check out the Crease Dive podcast, wherever you find podcasts. This week, Jordy talks with Penn State alum Austin Kaut, the goalie, about Penn State and all other things lacrosse.
#WeAreNumber1.
All right, another big game from Charlotte North has her on the heels of a Kylie Oldmiller record. We'll show you how after the break.
Anytime you're in the same sentence as Kylie Oldmiller, that's good news. Plus, the Boston College women facing a tough Georgetown team at home. We'll look at this weekend's women's games coming up next. First, though, a reminder, you can see Lacrosse Weekly on ESPN Plus right now, the premiere episode of the 2019 season, available now. You hear from Paul Carcaterra, Quinn Kesnick, and Villanova's Mr. Clutch, Connor Kirst, all on Lacrosse Weekly exclusively on ESPN Plus. Check it out.
Woodall wins the faceoff, and that will do it. For the first time since 1992 and the 3rd time ever, the Tigers have knocked off the #1 team in the country. It was a big stage here on a Wednesday night, Davey, and at times it wasn't real pretty, but it kind of fits what Towson is all about. They come away with the 12-10 win.
Tyler Pace with the Calgary Roughnecks. This is Box Lacrosse 101. Today we'll be talking about shuffle passing. As we're doing this drill, we want to make sure that our stick stays above our shoulder and we're passing, we're following through, right? We're not making any cradle motions when we catch it. We're controlling the ball before we release it. And we're not trying to race up the floor as we shuffle. It's more about control than it is about speed.
You're watching Lag Sports Network.
All right, we've got plenty of action on the women's game, which will be all over in the next couple of days. Defending national champs JMU taking on Temple. It's going to be right here on LSN. That game is at 1 p.m. Eastern. That will start on LSN2. And, of course, it's free on LACSportsNetwork.com and on the LSN app.
Well, while Samapuzzo cooled off a little last weekend, Duke Charlotte North picked up the trail of Kylie Oldmiller's record. North with 7 goals in Duke's 11-10 win over Louisville last weekend. Now with 51 points in 7 games. That's an average of 7.29 points per game, which puts her just a few percentage points short of Kylie O'Miller, 7.45 points a game when she set the single-season points record of 164 in 2017. So trying to maintain that pace. Apuzzo's been on it for much of the year, but North put up some big games the last couple weeks.
A lot of people chasing records, but you got to have the consistency across the season. It's still early.
It's still March.
Still March.
We'll check back in April.
Yeah, that's when things get really interesting. All right, so speaking of interesting, we got some big games coming up this weekend, coming up today on the women's side. BC and Georgetown, Michigan, Penn State, UVA and Notre Dame, another intriguing one for the women as well, and Penn and Duke. Why don't we start with that BC-Georgetown game? BC winning by an average of nearly 9 goals per game. You guys like the Eagles to stay unbeaten?
It's no disrespect to Georgetown. I think they're having a great year. But Boston College, with what they are doing and how they are doing it and how they're playing their offense and like that huge, I call them the Boston Big Three. They're unstoppable and they're unbelievable. Yeah, Simon Puzo might have only had 2 goals last week, but that never happens barely. I think that the first time in 11 games we've seen her only have 2 goals.
And the other 2 pick her up.
And yes, they do. So you have Dempsey and Kinsey, to fill in there. And so I just don't know if this is going to be a close one. I'm going BC the whole way.
Who needs Kyrie? Just put Sam Puzo on the Celtics.
We were just talking to the Big Three last week, right?
Yeah.
Those 3. I think. I mean, Georgetown has played some tough opponents. They played some people tough. It's just, I think it might be a little closer than BC played a close one against, I think it was USC a couple weeks ago at home. So maybe this Saturday afternoon, it won't be an 8-goal game like a lot of their other games, but I think it'll be a little bit closer than you think. I think Georgetown is good enough to compete at least for a little while.
By the way, good weather here in Boston for that one. So nice afternoon for some lacrosse. A little windy.
But it's great lacrosse weather. Fans going to be out there.
There's going to be sun. That's all you need. It's going to be kind of warm. All right, Tom, don't be such a stickler. How about Notre Dame and Virginia? This is crazy intriguing because we know Virginia is battle tested so far this year. Notre Dame may be undefeated, but not as battle tested.
First of all, the fact that it's Notre Dame, Virginia, for the men and for the women, I think that gives them a little bit more adrenaline to actually Virginia to come out. It's the kind of all your fans are going to be there. Virginia, their fans show up for lacrosse, and it's absolutely. I've been to a game at Virginia before, and that dynamic and just that ambiance is amazing.
Love Clark.
But Notre Dame needs this one. They're undefeated, and I think a lot of people are forgetting that about them. And they need this win over a ranked opponent to kind of get them more in the talks, and it would help them with coming into ACC play. And they're leading the country in several categories, but we don't talk about them. We don't talk about them as much. They haven't played anyone, so they need this game. So I think Notre Dame could be very good competition for them. I think it might be an upset.
I mean, when they're leading the nation in goals per game and goals against. But when you're scoring almost 19 goals and only giving up 5, people are going to go, all right, what gives?
Not right there.
That's why they need this win, and they're going to probably shut us up and be like, see, we are good. This could be the game.
Or are they, Tom?
Sure. I think Virginia's a little more battle-tested than Notre Dame is this year, and that's why they're 5th in the country. There's a reason they're in the top 10. There's a reason they're number 5. And while there is, I feel like still the separation between those top 3 teams, the top 4 teams, if you want to throw Syracuse in there, I think Virginia is still a step above of the Notre Dames and sign of everybody outside from 10 to 20. I think in the women's game there are some distinct tiers right now. We've had some upsets, but I do think Virginia's in that second tier, and I think they're good enough to take care of business today against Notre Dame.
So this would only be a tier 2 win for Notre Dame?
That's what I'm going with.
It is March Madness.
I'm inventing my own tiers. We're going to talk about the net a little bit later, I'm sure.
Just you wait. We'll make sure to go off air before we talk about the net. How about Duke and Penn, the women? Both these teams 6-1 coming into this season today.
I'm excited for this game. I think this will be one of the best games of the week. I think Duke's played a lot of competitive games so far this year. They had that 1-goal loss to Northwestern and scored a lot of goals, and they got Olivia Jenner. Duke did, which makes this one interesting for me because I would think Duke might have the advantage this one anyway, even despite the rankings. They did struggle with Louisville last week, that double OT win, which they had, but let's see Penn, who's 6-1, just lost to Maryland 14-9. So coming off a loss, I always feel like a team's a little bit more ready to go. and a little bit more motivated. So I like Penn a little bit more than Duke in this game, I think, but I'm not sure, which is going to make it good. I'm excited.
I'm kind of with you. I think this game is going to be really, really good. I think a lot's on the line for both teams. You got Charlotte North for the Blue Devils, and Charlotte North, as we've already talked, is absolutely having an amazing season. But for Penn, how they bounce back after losing to Maryland is going to be the big question for them. And I know that they want to be in the talks with these top 5 teams in the country, and they're doing really, really well. The one loss is Maryland. Maryland's amazing. They're top 2 teams in the country right there. And then they also have Northwestern. So coming up off after that. So like these 2 games are really, really matter. And as you guys just mentioned, Duke lost to Northwestern. So this would be a big, type of thing, like overall picture of how Penn plays against Duke and what we actually think of the Quakers.
By the way, speaking of bounce backs, this has been a great bounce back year for Duke. They struggled last year with the exception of a couple of games. Been a nice performance from the Blue Devils so far this season. But that's all the time we have. Remember, Lacrosse Now, 9 p.m. Eastern tonight will get you caught up on everything that happened throughout the college lacrosse Saturday. Going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy all the games, and we'll let you get to it. For Tom, Megan, I'm Travis. We'll see you later on.
Speed. Power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championships.